welcome back to the Grdina classroom with the Dr. Galasso.
What's up, y'all? How's
We're
everybody
already
doing?
at week 28, Dan. What do you think?
Man, we're over the halfway hump by a couple weeks.
By a couple weeks now.
That's nuts.
All right, so those of you who are listening to this in the future, we are on the day of July 11th, 2024. Just so you have a little reference point. Oh, well, let's get started. This is from Matthew 23:11, and I'll let Dan start us off with the verse tonight.
Yeah, Matthew 23:11 and 12. The greatest among you must be a servant, but those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Ooh, what you got for the observation, sir?
It's good. You ready?
Let's go.
As fallible human beings, we have so much to be humble about. Why then is humility such a difficult trait for us to master? Precisely because we are fallible human beings. Yet if we are to grow and mature as Christians, we must strive to give credit where credit is due, starting, of course, with God and His only begotten Son. As Christians, we have been refashioned and saved by Jesus Christ, and that salvation came not because of our own good works, but because of God's grace. Thus, we are not self-made. We are God-made, and we are Christ-saved. How then can we be boastful? The answer, of course, is that if we are honest with ourselves and with our God, we simply can't be boastful. We must instead be eternally grateful and exceedingly humble. See, humility, however, is not easy for most of us. All too often we are tempted to stick our chest and say, "Look at me. Look what I did." But in the quiet moments when we search the depths of our own hearts, we know better. Whatever it is, God did that, and He deserves the credit. Not you, fool. Well, that was my part at the end.
Sucker. Not you, sucker.
Not you, sucker. God did it, not you, fool. Man. Dan, you chew on that for a little bit.
Jeez.
The verse or the observation?
Man, the kingdom is it's a paradox. Everything is a paradox in the kingdom. To go up, you get low. To be great, you serve. To give or to receive, you give. The give me here is, if you look at Christ, like, He was not self-exalting at all. There's something that is amazing. I can just think of a season in my life where all of a sudden I saw these verses where Jesus, let's say, he healed the lepers or whatever. There's a few miracles where He said, don't go tell anybody. And there's something so attractive to me about that. At that season in my life, there was, I couldn't appreciate it before, and I understood why He said those things, but there's something about that. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, it had an image flash in my head where you have a running back or wide receiver score a touchdown, and they're the non-humble ones jumping up and down, all about me. I did it. And then you have like a Barry Sanders who's like takes a knee, gives the ball to this is my favorite running back. Gives the ball to the ref, and he would just go back. And that image stuck in my head because to act like Christ, it's not pounding your chest and saying, "Look what I did." Instead, it's a mentality of, "Look what God gave me to get me here in my journey of life." Because the one thing and this is just sports related a little bit, or it could be in your personal life as a manager or someone who's successful in business or whatever that is for you, there will come a point where you're not. So when you're the MVP of the year, or you're salesman of the year, or you're the president of the year, doesn't matter. There's only one way once you get to the top of the mountain, and it's down. Yeah. And the way God designed our journey in life is that your character is refined once you take the to fall off the top of the mountain, and then you're in the
Yeah.
valley. I taught this today to a young man, and I'm going to give it back to you because this is all very important to being humble. Is our journey in life should have a trajectory of a positive path, right? No matter what we do, there should be positives.
Yeah.
But in our spiritual journey, to act like Christ, we will have times where we think it's us that's making the gains and we don't rely on God. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, God will just kick us out from under our feet, drop us on our can, roll down the hill in the valley, and have us have a little bit of suffering, which is
Mm.
not for punishment. It's to rebuild our character to be back to Christ. So
Yeah.
don't think of it when you get kicked in the teeth and something goes bad, that God's trying to punish you. Sometimes he is, because we learn from the Old Testament. And this brought me to 2 Chronicles 7:14, which I pray every day, is that those who seek my face, daily, and humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, and they pray, then I'll hear from heaven and I'll heal their land. So if we look at this
That's good.
verse about being humble, right? Being humble. That's why in the Old Testament, when people were repenting, they wore sackcloth because it was not comfortable. But they knew
Yeah.
that they did something wrong, and they had to humble themselves, even as kings did in the Old Testament, knowing that they are always lower than their so-called social status. When you're in the eyes of God, we are always lower. So that's where the humility comes in, is honoring God with he having the greatest seat, which is on the throne, the King of Kings of all the universe. And we're just a
Mm.
humble servant trying to abide in his love and his law.
Yeah.
I guess that's my summary of how I would sum it up.
That's good. I mean, your sports analogy made me think of a sports analogy. I remember, man, I don't know, like 15, 18 years ago, something. I was watching a Heat game with at the time our pastor, and this is back when the Heat were had D
Don't
Wade
say and LeBron and Bosh.
this is previous LeBron.
Oh, great.
LeBron wasn't there. Yeah, he wasn't there yet. But
Yeah.
Shaq might have been there. Excuse me. I think it had D Wade and Shaq, and they had a good team. But anyway, Dwayne Wade would make these amazing plays, and I remember he made this play, and he was like just brutally fouled, and his back was away. Yeah, his back was facing the goal, and he just did, as he was falling down, he just kind of threw it behind his back, and it hit the backboard and hit the rim and then hit the backboard again and then bounced like 8 times and then went in, and he acted like he had practiced that shot and that he just nailed it.
Oh,
He was like, oh, you know what I mean? And I remember just looking at my pastor, and he's like, give me a break. And I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And I just remember thinking afterwards, like, that's what it looks like when we get in our head and get boastful, like we have more than the smallest part to do with anything that is good in our life. And I'm not saying we don't take responsibility for things, that we don't put forth effort and all that stuff and practice and all that. I'm not saying we don't do that, but there's such a fine line where all of a sudden, like God wanted that shot to go in and it went in. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
And you cannot practice that shot. It was luck. It was a
luck,
sheer.
yeah.
And so much of our life is not luck. It's God's grace that is working in our life. And sometimes I think we give ourselves a lot more credit than we do, not just when things go right, that it had something to do with us, but when things go wrong and it had something to do with us. Like, just like you were saying, when, it's like we can't earn it. And just as much as we can't earn certain things, there's some things we just can't, for lack of a better word, screw up. It may seem like that in the moment, but God's always adding to us and always taking away. And it's part of this refining process. There's something beautiful about a God who strips down at dinner and starts washing the feet of
Yeah.
yeah
His disciples. It's
of these disciples who are so scattered. You know what I mean? who daily is treating equally Peter as he is Judas. And still just serving. You know what I mean? Like it's mind blowing. You know, it's really mind blowing. And when you look at what honor is, if you want to honor someone, biblical honor is always coming first from that which is on high to that which is on low. And it doesn't always mean that if we want to give honor, that we're, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be the bigger person here, whatever. But just that choice you have to honor someone that maybe by your definition doesn't deserve honor, or by the world's definition doesn't deserve honor, means that you're in a place of control, and you can
Yeah.
give it out. And just like we didn't deserve the honor that, you know, the disciples didn't deserve, we didn't deserve the honor that God gave us in his love and in his provision on the cross. He came down low and he gave it to us anyway. He came down low and he washed the disciples' feet, fed them, and he gave them wine. And he said, "This is my body. This is my blood." I mean, he did something so amazing. And when I just think of that, when I think of servanthood, that those are the ones who get low, who get dirty, those are the greatest in the kingdom. The ones who are not seeking self-promotion, those are the greatest. And those are the ones who bestow honor on others. And that's just a beautiful, really beautiful thing to me.
Well, it's just like a boss, right? You want a boss. I always think of it this way.
Mm.
My best managers or bosses in my life never thought they were better than me or my coworkers.
Mm.
The best bosses I had got in the trenches. They were servant leaders. They understood that they would get in the mud with you instead of just tell you what to do. They would work alongside with you. And just like Jesus washed the feet of the
Yeah.
disciples and fed everyone and healed, he never boasted about his works. There was a scene in The Chosen that just stood out to me. Is all the disciples, Jesus is healing people all day long. They're lined up. I think it was season 2. And they're all
Mm.
huddling. They were arguing about something stupid. And Jesus is literally shaking as he goes to his tent. And then Mary comes to him and comforts him. And he's just like, I just need to rest. And all the disciples witness this, and they all shut up because they had watched the Son of God as a man heal all these people and humble himself before these people
Mm.
out of humility and grace. And we're in the world arguing about stupid stuff like, oh, my
Yeah.
shirt's wrinkled, or I'm going to be 5 minutes late to work. Like, this guy turned on, whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if we work out of a heart of humility and gratitude, that's one of the biggest things I've learned, Dan, in my life. I'm going to be honest. I was prideful, and I think it was because of my athleticism growing up. You have this pride of, when you have great athletics, it's almost like synonymous with a jock who's prideful or cocky, right?
Mm.
And it took time for me, when I wasn't as athletic in my journey in my relationship with God, to come to a point of just surrender.
Mm.
Like, even though I'm trying to make my temple, the body I've been given, to last long through
Mm-hmm.
our exercise and what we do, the whole point of it is that I understand that I am fallible, that I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. And that changes my perspective of each day operations.
Mm.
So what I'm trying to say is gratitude to God each day allows the heart to be open and to be humble, so that you can go and serve instead of be served, and not rush and to be at peace. And that's really living a fulfilled life in my
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. So good. That's good, man. Let's move on to the
You got the
tip, huh?
tip?
I got the
Yeah,
tip.
yeah.
I'm about to read this thing. All right. This week's tip is: you must remain humble or face the consequences. Pride does go before the fall, but humility often prevents the fall. How cool is that, right? You get low in your humility, and does a 1 inch fall? Does a fall when you're already 1 inch from the ground hurt? Not really, right?
Yeah. No.
It's amazing.
It really is. And I'm going to, in my prayer tonight, and I'll go ahead and start it, is Lord, I just ask everyone, just be thankful for all of us to not be boastful, pounding our chest people with pride, to be a servant of you, to humble ourselves so that we may be exalted later in heaven. For all the glory and praise goes to you, for you are the creator of everything. You love us. You showed that every single day that Christ was here, that he imitates your good love and your good works for us. I pray for everyone today who has a prideful heart to just be at rest, that your works mean nothing to God, but your heart means everything to him. So know in assurance and reassurance that God loves you, that your works don't mean anything, but his love and grace has already been fulfilled. All you have to do is be at peace, surrender, be at rest, knowing that you are loved by God the Almighty. And once you do that, your heart will transform, your mind will transform, and your actions will change for the better. So I pray for everyone who's going through this transformation process, this renewal, this rebirth, that you allow God to work on your heart, and that you allow the sin of pride, the greatest sin that God explained so well in the Old Testament, the sin of pride, would be removed from you.
Yeah.
And that you would be allowed to just follow God on this new path to heaven. I ask all these things to come to fruition in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, pride is such a bad sin. Terrible.
Yeah. And it masquerades itself,
It
in so
does.
many different ways, right? I mean, hidden pride is deadly, you know?
It is rooted from the Garden of Eden that you will not, if you eat this fruit, you'll be like God, right?
Yeah.
That was pride, knowing that I had to be different. We don't have to be different. We just have to humble
Yeah.
ourselves before him and
Yeah,
know
and you
that he
think about
loves
it.
us.
You think
Right?
about it. They were already like God.
They had it made.
Yeah. I mean, they
Oh,
were already like God, and
yes.
just that deception just opened up that and made way for
Open up the
pride to
door to
come in.
hell.
And
That's it. So to hammer that down, listen, if you are in a prideful state or around prideful people, praying for you that you will be removed from that mindset and just have humility. Really, that's what it's all about. So thank you for joining us today
yes,
as we read through Matthew 23:11 through 12. And as always, it's a blessing to have you here. Like, comment, subscribe, and say something about Daniel for his nice background and what a great job he does every week.
I give all credit to my wife for her savvy decor.
What a great woman. And
She is.
that is great. All right, everyone. Love you. Be
Love you.
blessed. We'll see you next week.
Peace.